authorised by the government of the day. And this government has a view, as previous governments have, of the importance of that sense of reciprocal responsibility. In other words, people without employment trying to seek employment and getting the supports they need to get it. So I always start with that kind of premise. In the work we do, we don't see ourselves as throwing out everything that exists, but we absolutely think that we should listen to what people are saying. Now, that's within this context of understanding obligations that Australians have to participate in their community and the expectations that the community has of them. In terms of competitive arrangements, again, our approach would be to work within the framework that the government of the day puts in place. And we don't have a view that the private sector is better than the not-for-profit sector or the public sector in terms of delivering those services. Does that answer your question?
Lynelle, how long can you go, if you go to largely IT-based, web-based interactions, there'll be a number of people who can't do that, I mean, not just the frail infirm, but people who don't want to. How long can you maintain a people presence, and are you going to use other conduits like doctors' surgeries, nursing home staff who will be, in a sense, facilitators or conduits for that information rather than an organisation?
Great question, and in fact this was a question that struck me in my first day in Medicare Australia. What we've been doing in Medicare is trying to have Medicare payments in effect delivered through doctors' surgeries, in the same way that pharmaceutical payments are in effect delivered through pharmacists' locations. That would have meant a shrinking of this national icon across the country, and it's something the government doesn't want to see. I'll be very straightforward about that. What the government wants to see is people on the ground delivering government services. So, and from where I stand, in those 2 years that I was CEO of Medicare Australia, there was never any shortage of people coming to me saying, we want you to deliver things for us. And one of the reasons for that is we've got great staff who deliver great quality service and are loved within the Australian community, but also we've got great IT. We spend $900 million a year on IT, and this functionality is incredibly powerful and can be used for all sorts of different purposes.
Just here, thank you. I'm conscious that people from the ends are not getting the question, so if there's anyone at the end, please signal. Go ahead.
Barry from South Australia. The joining up of services isn't of itself an intervention or a delivery of a service. The danger is that you create a mega mess rather than a better provision of service. Have you encountered some of those confusions? And could you please explain how to deal with it if you have?
Within this context, the answer is no. And that's not to say that there wasn't one stage early last year when we weren't very wobbly. And we were wobbly because the people in the three agencies were at the organisational level were getting to know each other and getting to understand the capacities, the strengths and weaknesses, the programs and so on of the other organisations. And you've just got to go through that kind of uncertainty, getting to know you kind of process to make things work. But the reason we haven't had these problems, in my view, is we really focused on this stuff up front. And we said that the greatest risk to this reform agenda would be if our existing programs weren't managed properly. So that has been at the forefront of our minds at every turn, and as a result, we haven't had any problems. It's as simple as that. And you know, you can manage change, and you need to think about it as a process to be managed rather than something that just happens to you.
This might be the last question at the very back. Thank you.
Just a quick question. How will you know when you've been successful?
I get asked this question a bit, and I do have quite a strong view about this. And I think it works at two levels, but from the Australian public's level, I think we will know we've been successful when the Australian public think of us immediately as the agency they go to get support or help when they need it. And that to me would be a wonderfully powerful thing. From a government perspective, what the government will be looking to is to see the kinds of outcomes that we envisage are possible from closer community engagement and from joined up services actually delivering those results. And already we can see this stuff. You know, as head of Medicare, I'm prepared to say that we have discovered in joining with Centrelink, a number of Indigenous people who've just lost their Medicare cards and would never come through this national health system other than at emergency services. That's a terribly bad thing, and we're fixing that stuff already. But we all are seeing things like when people have bereavements in their families, working at the local level with funeral homes, they can help us get information to people about what is needed and so on. And it's those sorts of small changes in people's lives that deliver better outcomes at the macro level, but at the individual level as well. And I think they're incredibly powerful things and really do form the basis of properly citizen-focused services.